Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. And I've gotten through this first bit without hitting the button by accident and erasing it. So that's hope it stays that way. So we're here to do the series that we have been doing for the month of March, which is called My 31 Favorite Rock Bands That Released 2 Albums in the Same Year. The group we've taken for today, which is kind of ironic that they're doing these in the same year because it's the end of one era and the beginning of maybe another era. So we're talking about the Beatles and the albums Help and Rubber Soul. So these are 2 albums. I like both these albums, but this one to me is kind of the last of those really poppy albums that they started out their career with. And I do like all that poppy stuff, by the way. But not always by every band, but in the case of the Beatles, that is the case. Most of their stuff is really catchy. This album is not really any exception to that. It's not one of my favorite Beatles albums, but it does have a lot of good stuff on here. You got 14 tracks on this in all. Of course, the title track, Help, which has that iconic guitar part. Oh, actually, that's Hard Day's Night, sorry. Help, which is the opening track here. Then you also have Ticket to Ride, which is a very well-known song too. And Yesterday is also on here, which many say is the Beatles' best song of all time. I don't know, maybe it's the highest ranked song of all time. It's not necessarily one of my favorite. They've got a lot of pretty good stuff on here, though. Lots of very poppy stuff. And this, of course, is the soundtrack from the movie Help, which is quite good. This album has, it's kind of a plain, it's just a marker with a small book in it. Nothing spectacular. Pictures of all 4 of them. There's Paul and George. There's Ringo. And then, of course, on the front one is John. So, yeah. Excellent album. This is probably a collection of both albums being fairly decent. Not among my favorites, but very decent. This one I like maybe a little bit more. Rubber Soul. This is kind of that beginning where you're starting to get some of that kind of psychedelic stuff going on. But you also have some pop on here too. So you got a little bit of both. So it's a bit of a transitionary album. Drive My Car. I love this tune, really good. Norwegian Wood, which is very different for them, but also probably one of my favorite songs on this album. Nowhere Man, another great classic by them. Michelle is on here. What's Going On? Girl. Yeah, I love that tune as well. In My Life Is Here. If I Need Someone. There's some really good stuff on this album. I do like the particular fold-out kind of booklet that this comes with. Really, really neat. So the Beatles have begun to transform on this album. They've begun to develop that psychedelic feeling to their music. It's still in its early infancy stages, but really good. So those are the 2 albums I chose, both released in, I believe it was 1966. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe both these albums came out in 1966. Actually, maybe it was 65. Probably was 65. It says so on here, the original soundtrack from 1965. Let's see if it says anything. And I hope I got this right. I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure they both came out in the same year. But for some reason, I always thought this one was from 66, but it isn't. It says 65. So both from 1965. Help coming out first, and Rubber Soul coming out second. Good collection. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you want, you can leave comments on the 2 albums in the comment section below, or about the band, the Beatles, or anything I've said, and that would be perfectly acceptable to me. So I hope you have a good day, a good evening, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode of my 31 favorite rock bands who released 2 albums in the same year. Take care and goodbye.